Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the Citizen Journalist and Youth Ki Awaaz video blogging hangout. And congratulations to everyone for being an intern in the program. So we're going to start out today by talking a little bit about how to create compelling video content using your mobile phone and your computer and the tools that you have. A couple quick notes. One is that please, if you haven't yet, do open the group chat window on the right of your screen because you can use that to ask any questions. I'm going to be muting all of you guys. Feel free to unmute yourselves whenever you'd like to speak, but it helps avoid interference on the call. A little bit about me, I'm Anika Gupta, and I work with the Citizen Journalist online team. And we do a whole bunch of things. I don't know if you all have seen Citizen Journalist online, but we do a lot of generation of content from users and highlighting issues that are important and relevant to them. Okay, so let's get started. First question is, has anyone here, does anyone have a background in video production? Or has done a video before? You can just nod if you have. No. Okay, cool. Okay, so I saw one nod. Was that a nod, Nishant, or a shake of the head? I can't tell. Okay, great. So obviously a variety of levels of experience, but I will start by saying that one of the most useful links is, I'm just going to post this in the sidebar chat window right now. If you go to CJ's YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/IBM Citizen Journalist, you will see a playlist called Youth Ki Awaaz /CJ Video Blogging Project. And that includes a whole bunch of, that playlist includes several of the really quality submissions that came to us last time. So if you haven't yet, do go through and take a look at those, and that'll give you a sense of some of the videos that other CJs have created in the past, which is often extremely helpful. Okay, and Nishant, I'm just going ahead and muting your background. If you could, that would be great. Okay, so yeah, so you can go ahead and check out that playlist link. We had a variety of different submissions, and there's just a selection in there. Now, when we talk about video blogs and videos, one of the first questions and one of the most important questions that we get from people is, what should I do my video project on? Like, what should it be about? And I think we obviously in the past, we've suggested a couple of prompts to people. We suggested, for example, go ahead and do a profile of a local hero in your neighborhood. You can do an interview with citizens about an issue that matters. So, for example, you'll see on that playlist link, you'll see that there are a bunch of people who have submitted, there's one that's been done by a lady named Pooja, where she went and interviewed commuters on the train about challenges that they face. And that was a great piece. So she had the opportunity to go and talk to various different people about why it's difficult to commute on the Delhi Metro and what some of the biggest challenges are. We had somebody else who did an interview on climate change. So she went and talked with young people about their views on climate change, what could be done to address some of the most common causes. We had another who had done a video blog where she interviewed various women in Delhi about their experiences with safety in the city. So a lot of different options. Nishant, I'm sorry, would you mind just muting yourself? Is that all right? I'm trying to mute you and not having much success. Nishant? Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so she had gone through and interviewed several people, and that's also up there. So definitely take a look at that playlist. So I would say start with an issue that's interesting to you. We also had people who did a diary, and that's when you speak to the camera yourself. You can do that either via a webcam, or you can do that using a mobile phone. or if you have a proper digital video camera, you can feel free to do that. I'll use that also. And we had one intern who did a blog where she was an avid reader, and so she had someone hold the camera, and she basically talked about the books that had meant the most to her. And she shot that while sitting in front of her enormous book collection. So she had all of her books behind her. So that created a really nice image, and she actually pointed out some of her favorite books as she went through. So these are all ideas. You can also choose an assignment off the CJ page. So we have a whole bunch of assignments if you go to the Citizen Journals page, and any of those are also interesting. Is any of that not clear? Like any questions from anyone on subjects and material and how to go about choosing a topic for your videos? If you have a question, you can either ask it or you can go ahead and type it in the corner. Have you had a chance to open up that playlist yet? Or maybe do it after we're done. That'll give you a good idea. Does anyone already know what they want to be doing their video about? Like, any thoughts? Feel free to unmute yourself and chime in if you want to share that. We can talk about it.
I want to do a video blog on the underground music scene in my city.
On what in your city, Nishant?
The underground music scene, basically the indie rock circuit in the city.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting topic. Any idea how you'd want to frame that or how you'd want to approach that?
Basically by going to concerts and talking to a lot of musicians who happen to be my friends, who've actually tried to make a career out of music. By going through the non-Bollywood stream of music and using their own indigenous influences or maybe Western influences and juxtaposing them into making something of their own and trying to break out in the scene that way. So maybe I would like to do something on that.
Yeah, that sounds like a really interesting topic. Now, a couple of thoughts that I had on that, or a couple of things that are worth keeping in mind. One, and this is based on our previous experience with this. One is that if you're shooting at concerts, particularly if you're shooting at night, I don't know what kind of equipment you're using. Are you using a phone or a camera or?
No, I'll be borrowing a video camera of my friend, so that will not be an issue.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, the one thing that I would encourage you to do, sorry, one second. Okay, so the one thing that I would encourage you to do is make sure you check that the light is good. And this I would encourage everybody, especially if you're shooting in the evenings. We've noticed that a lot of times if the video is, if there's not a lot of ambient light, the video is really strongly affected. So just do be cautious about that. And then the other thought for you, Nishant, would also be think about whom you want to talk to. So maybe say, I'm going to talk to 2 or 3 different people and see if you can get a diversity of perspectives on the indie music scene. So you could maybe get somebody who's just starting out, potentially add somebody who's quite a bit more experienced, maybe add a producer if the scene is established enough that there are producers to kind of round that out. And
recording artists,
yeah,
various genres, metal, punk, indie, all that. Plus,
sure.
You have recording artists, producers, band pad owners. Basically, these they rent out pads to upcoming bands so that they can practice for their shows and all that. So basically, these people also have their take on the music scene about what's happening around.
Sure. I think that'll be really interesting. And I think if you target 2 to 3 people to talk to, each of whom has a slightly different viewpoint on the industry and where it's at, that'll make for a really interesting story. The nice thing about what you're suggesting is that there's a lot of audio that you could probably work in. So you could take clips of their shows and add that to your video, which is often interesting for people to listen to. Since it's an online story, wherever it's hosted, you can also, include links to the band's or artist's pages. Uh, the other thing I would mention is that if you plan to do recording at a show, do make sure that when you are doing one-on-ones with people, that you maybe bring them into a corner where it's a little more quiet. Because if there's a lot of ambient noise in the background, it tends to also make it very difficult to hear what's being said.
True.
So maybe like beforehand, just scope out like a quieter part of, if it's a club, for example, maybe ask them to step outside where it's a little more quiet and do your one-on-one there. Rather than
probably
doing it
have to take them to the smoking zones or something.
Right, something.
Probably have to take them to the smoking zones or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And no, that sounds like a great idea. And then also when you finally put it all together, in the beginning, if you say, for example, if you yourself introduce it, so if you have like a little section where you say, hi, I'm, Nishant, and today I'm here to, talk to various voices from the indie music scene in the city. That kind of helps people who are watching get a sense of what's going on. Cool. Any other questions? Anyone else who has an idea they want to explore?
I would like to know, the video has to be how long? There's specific, yeah.
Amit, I think 2 to 3 minutes is a good target. I think if you're talking to several people, like Nishant was talking about, then you can probably take it out to about 5 minutes. But longer than that, and it tends to get very long. So just think yourself about the length of the videos you watch online. You usually probably aren't going to watch a video that's, 10, 20 minutes online. So, keep that in mind, that it has to sustain interest throughout. I would say that between 3 to 5 minutes is ideal.
Okay, and just one more question. Is that, okay, I think I'm forgetting. Yeah, do we have to take interviews as far as video is concerned, or we can just speak about an issue in a video? Or do we have to take into account other people also?
Yeah, you can do it either way that you like. So if you want to go out and do interviews, then you can. And we had a decent number of people in the last batch who did that. But I will also say that that's not required. So we also had people who did, like I mentioned, that that one intern who had actually just done, a walkthrough of the books that mean the most to me and why. And what really worked about that is that A, she was very passionately engaged in the subject, and B, she also had that bookcase behind her while she was doing it. So as she would introduce one book, she demonstrated that book, and then the camera zoomed in on that. So she had asked somebody else to hold the camera while she did it. Otherwise, you can also do a straight video piece yourself, where you're talking to the camera.
Right.
Other questions?
I had a question actually. I just wanted to ask that since we're not very familiar with editing videos and we haven't done anything of this sort before, so what would be a good place to get assistance from?
Yeah, so honestly, I think that, the edits you'll be doing will likely be, they can run the gamut from however basic to however complex. You can do some basic edits in the YouTube video editor if you've had the chance to use that. So when you upload a video to YouTube, they do allow you to make some basic edits to that video, such as trimming, and they also have a few other features available. And you can find that they have guides for that in their help center, and people have made tutorials. You can also do edits in a lot of like basic software programs, Movie Maker, and you can also use iMovie. And those usually have pretty detailed help guides as well. Does that help answer the question? So basic edits would include like putting a title on the video, doing basic cuts between the video, trimming sections, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks.
And I will also add, as an addendum to that, that depending on the subject you choose, the amount of editing you do will be more or less. So if you want to do like a larger story with 3 different interviews, you'll probably end up doing a little more editing. Whereas if you decide to do a single video where you speak to a webcam, then you might do it in one take and just crop it or even use the original. So that depends on what you want to experiment with. Other questions? Anyone else have a topic that they are already thinking about besides Nisham? Yeah, Pritika? Did you have a topic or a question? Okay. I think maybe not. So a few other basics of the housekeeping. Ideally, I would recommend shooting in daylight, unless you have a really compelling reason to shoot at night. So ideally in daylight, often outdoors works really well. I know these days it's quite hot, so someone has to be careful, obviously. Choose a comfortable setting, but ambient natural light is the best. And again, just I think the most important thing is pay attention to the audio situation that you have. So that might mean recording a clip beforehand. What often happens is that when you're recording, it seems as if the video is totally fine, and then when you listen to it later, you realize that there was a lot of ambient background noise. So, and most of the time, if you're shooting on a regular phone or a camera, the microphone is actually fairly basic. So just test that and do try and get your subjects into a quiet corner as much as possible. So if you look at that playlist again, there's one video, the safety video with a couple of women in Delhi, and I think what worked really well about that video is that the audio is crystal clear. So she's managed to speak to these women in sort of outdoors, but next to a building, so in a sort of shaded area, and she's got her phone right up in front of them, the camera. So consider that. If you're shooting on a mobile, just turn it sideways. That's often very helpful. And if you want to zoom, in general, it works better if you get closer to the subject rather than if you use a zoom within the device. Other thoughts and questions?
And what is the time frame for submitting the video?
Yeah, so I think the Youth Ki Awaaz team will kind of divide folks up into batches. And what we'll do is you guys will make your first video. So the first batch will probably finish that in a week to a week and a half. And then we'll have a feedback session. And so we'll have a bunch of people and someone from our team who will actually watch all the videos and give you guys feedback on both technically and editorially on the video. And last time we had huge success with this. In fact, we ended up taking one of the vlogs on our TV show as well. So that's something we'd love to do. So yeah. Other thoughts? Other questions? It's a very quiet batch this time around. Last time they had a million questions going. I could barely keep up with them. How many people are planning to use a mobile phone to shoot? You can just raise your hands. Okay. And how many of you guys are looking at using a digital camera? And a couple of you are clearly not voting in this particular poll. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Yeah. So you can do a lot of what we've talked about. You can do on a mobile phone. There's no reason that you need any fancy camera. The idea is that it should feel like a video that comes from you, and the subject is, I think, the story that you tell is the most important thing. So you can even do, in addition to things like profile of a local hero, for example, one topic that often gets people going is a profile of like your favorite local landmark or a meaningful place in your community and why. That's often really useful. We've had one of the things that people often come to CJ with are civic issues in their neighborhood. So we had one citizen journalist a while back who did a really compelling blog for us about unsafe pedestrian crosswalks in his neighborhood. So he went and he actually took a video and he talked about why that crosswalk was unsafe and how the lights never functioned, and that was a great one. So yeah, specific issues, profile of people or areas in your community that are worth celebrating. A full story, like the indie music scene, the book culture in a particular city, that kind of thing. Um, Other questions?
Uh, just one more question, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The video can be, I can use any subject, any theme for preparing the video. There's no bar, no restriction to choosing a particular kind of topic.
No, no bar restriction at all. What did you have in mind?
Uh, well, I don't know how relevant will that be, but since you're asking, I was thinking of doing a video on the way exit polls and opinion polls are trying to are trying to create an opinion about people or certain political parties. I was trying to prepare a video on that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And is that a video where you yourself would speak to the camera, or are you thinking of going out and getting voices as
I
well talking
might
about it?
I might include a few people. I might go for interviews, and I might speak, uh, in the camera, and
Mm-hmm.
just to highlight the issue that how it tries to create opinions which might not exist.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, I think it's a very interesting subject, Amit. I think the one thing I would mention there, of course, is
Mhm.
I think the benefit is that your subject lends itself to being shot in daytime. It's very much in the news. Um, Remember that this will be after the results are out.
Right.
So yeah, so just keep that in mind as you're preparing it. If
Sure.
you want to make sure that
Sure.
you're still interested in working on it, even when that exit poll conversation may have, moved on to results conversation. That said, the other thing is, I would say that with a subject like that, what really works is if you have some interesting research to back it up and to discuss also. So there has been a lot of material that a lot of think tanks and independent research groups have done looking at polling and in particular now that we have digital media, how that's impacting the spread of exit poll information and all that. And so that might be just that might be a very interesting piece if you can kind of synthesize and bring together some of the thinking that's going on around that subject. Other thoughts and ideas?
Yeah, I just wanted to know that there are a lot of these social experiment kind of things that are going on these days, where you just create a situation and let people react, and basically hide the camera and shoot all of that. So could we also do something of that sort?
Yeah, this is the question that comes up every time. So my advice would be that um, do feel free to take video of anything, but you do want to identify yourself to people and also mention that you are taping them. That sort of secret camera situation, I think, I mean, I don't recommend that at all, and I think it's a little difficult also because I mean you are legally supposed to identify yourself. So I don't know. I mean, if that was your question,
No, actually, you do recognize yourself, you do identify yourself, but that happens
right?
at the very end, right? When your job's done. So
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I would be careful about that. If you identify them at the end, then you'll just have to say, by the way, this was on video, and do we have your permission to use it? But I think the far better approach. I mean, I know that that makes a social experiment difficult. Is to say that we may be filming you, or we are filming you right now. What social experiment did you have in mind, though?
So I just saw this one on a very popular website that there was a girl and a guy in a conversation, and the girl apparently belonged to the Northeast, and he was passing off racist comments at her, and they just, in a rather loud tone, and they watched how people went by and didn't react and intervene at all. So it was just that, they were gauging people's reactions on racism and how it's a problem. So something of that sort, and in the end, they did tell them that it's all on camera and it's for an experiment.
Yeah, in fact, I think I saw the exact video you're talking about. It was very popular on YouTube. Yeah, so, I know people do stuff like that. I would say that just use your discretion and make sure that you have the permission of everybody who you have on camera to be showing them.
Yeah, that's exactly was my question.
Yeah, and if there is a way to approach that topic and to talk about the issue, expose it, etc., without film, without that social experiment angle, that's also a possibility you can look at. Other questions? Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had this idea of doing something on a nuclear power plant. So the nuclear power plant in Tarapur is very close to Bombay, and I want to take a video on the livelihood of people in and around Tarapur, and also the health and safety of the workers who are working in the nuclear power plant. So this is one idea which I was thinking about. What do you think?
I think, Rahul, it's a great idea. Keep in mind that the filming in and around nuclear facilities is highly restricted. And to the extent that people who work in these facilities may not be willing to talk to you about their work and all that on camera, and even if you go into the communities around that area, and they say, we have this issue or there is that issue, and it's related to the plant, you'll have to then, reach out and say, okay, if that's what they're saying, but is that actually the truth? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, like, if, for example, you go and they allege that, some harm is being caused in our community, then you may have to reach out and either try and get, if not an official response, then at least try and see if, there's veracity to that claim. So I think it's a very interesting subject. And I think something like a day in the life of a worker would be interesting. But I think the challenge for you would be finding somebody who would be authorized and able to speak to you about that on video. If you can do that, nothing like it. I think it's a great subject. I mean, it's a very interesting subject. I think the only challenge would be finding the sources for that. Other thoughts and questions? I know we have a few people who've been quite silent, so I just hope that all of you guys have either, well, I hope you've not fallen asleep over there, some of you folks. So yeah, for those of you who kind of got ideas, that sounds great. And the rest of you, check out the assignments page, check out the playlist. That might give you some ideas of how people have done various projects. Sounds good? And if you have other questions, you can always email them to the Youth Ki Awaaz team, who will share them with us as well. So, there's a lot of interaction back and forth. You can tweet us at IBNCJ. I'll just type that in the chat window also. You can follow and or tweet questions that you have at that handle. Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining in. I am really looking forward to seeing everybody's first video blogs. We're always excited. And I have to tell you that last time I was absolutely blown away by the quality and the depth of the projects that we got. So the bar is very high for this set of interns now. The last batch was excellent. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Talk to you all again soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.